Hi, everybody, and welcome to TNMCoaching Unplugged and Zoran Todorovic Interconnected Podcast. We are so grateful and happy to have you with us today. It's summer where I am right now in Spain, so I decided to change the environment so you can see a little bit of light behind me. Usually we are in the closed spaces when it comes to this podcast, but now I feel inspired by light. And today's topic is also going to be inspirational and really light one, because we're going to be talking about this myths of the work-life balance and self-leadership role in that. I think I always think about this a lot. What is that work-life balance? Is this possible? Is there a myth attached to this? How do you accomplish that? Can we accomplish that? It's such a beautiful topic as well. And also, what is the role of self-leadership? How do we lead ourselves inside of it? And I think this is something that we all need to learn to become more, because through this digitalization of everything, the AI technology, remote hybrid working, our ability to be anytime, any place, to be accessible, to be reachable, we get challenged by all of this. So I'm very curious to talk to our wonderful guest today and see how can we tackle that, and how can we explore this topic further. So I was practicing the name Khawla Alhaidari. I hope I said it. But
Close. Zoran, close. Khawla Alhaidari.
There you are. That's much better than you say it. She's a wonderful leadership coach, facilitator, mentor, and speaker with the essence of mastery. And I love when somebody is holding that focus of mastery, the essence of mastery. In her work, she's focusing on leadership culture and holistic systems. She worked in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and globally, online, offline. She's very passionate about supporting leaders in focusing and driving their teams to seek the inner wisdom, to strive in today's world, to tap into their full potential. I love that, because our podcast is all about accessing and tapping into the full potential. Also, she's supporting people to manage the demands of fast-paced world we live in. And when her clients talk about her, they always describe her as somebody who is daring and caring. That's a good combination, yeah, right? So somebody really cares about you a lot, but he's daring to show up authentically. And they love her wisdom and enthusiasm. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you on this podcast. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm very humbled to be here and share a bit of my journey and hopefully inspire others to get out of this mindset of this work-life integration or work-life balance that I personally, for years, was striving to reach. And then I had this, transformational coaching sessions, actually series of coaching sessions where I was convinced that it's a myth. So I'm here to share my journey before and after, before the realization and after the realization.
So let's make that intention that, including myself and everybody else who is listening to this, we will then shift into our mindset completely. And this is going to be, all of these coaching sessions you've experienced in this short podcast, getting us to really understand this. Because I think it's super important topic, right? Isn't it? And you said you had the before and after. What was before for you? Before you had this transformation, before you have this new mindset, how was your life at that time? And also your clients.
Yeah. So, I was married at 17 years old. I had my first child at 18, and I was always had a full plate. Like, it was either me being a mother, being a wife, being a daughter, and then being working in corporate and also studying. Because when I got married, I had only my high school degree, and I was always adamant to getting my bachelor's and then my master's. I'm a learner, right? So it was like, I was very ambitious and wanting to do it all. I needed to work to get the money for the intuition, of course, for the schooling, and I needed to take care of a child, which was my responsibility. And it was just a lot all at once. And I was, for a decade, my solo goal was to balance between everything and feel balanced. And guess what? It's never gonna be reached. I reached the conclusion of, no matter what I do, how many tools I learn, that balance is, the definition of balance before was like how can I give time to my friends? How can I give time to my family? How can I give time to my work? How can I give time to my studies? And now balance to me is, after series of sessions and a lot of breakdowns and a lot of tears and a lot of journaling and a lot of creativity, the word balance means a choice.
Wow. 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 So let's go back. The word balance.
Choice.
Wow. I'm just allowing this to settle because I love that. I love balance means the choice. And especially coming from you, somebody who had full plate, it seems like from the get-go, you know what I mean? If you had the child at the early age and marriage and, you know, getting yourself to education and being passionate for studying and then your working career, because I read your CV and I can see that you are a high achiever and you've done a lot of things in your life professionally. So that means that you have put a lot of demand on yourself in addition to family life, to social life, to friends, to everything that we need to tune to. So when you are talking about it, I see that there's somebody who's really credible because you've been realistically challenged by life, right?
Continuously challenged by life. So every time I feel like I got this, God throws one situation at me like, oh, wait, you think you got it? So now I need to close a house and quit my job and move into another country, which I don't speak the language of, and take out the children out of their schools and put them in other schools. And it's like, where is the balance here? What do you mean balance? You know, let me strive for something different. Let me strive for, how can I self-lead? How can I bring my internal compass and be at choice given the circumstances that are ambiguous and coming at me from nowhere, and enjoy the journey of life. So I became focused on answering the question of, how can I enjoy the journey of life being at choice and living how I want to live and being with others, you know, being amongst others from self-leader, from within.
From within.
And it became my obsession, really. Yeah, it became my obsession until today. I want to do this. How can I fit it in and make a choice? What do I say yes to? What do I say no to in order for me to make this happen?
Yeah. So this moment of your realization when you understood that this is something that you were chasing, and I had this feeling all my life. I'm quite similar to you. I didn't have family that early on, but I need to move countries, change, you know, consistent ambiguity, relationship-wise as well. And it was challenging for me also. Then I got into the corporate world, in the corporate career. I was an overachiever as well. And I was striving for that balance all the time. And work-life balance. I remember first time when one of the mentors introduced this concept to me, I didn't even know what he was talking about. And throughout my life, I was striving to achieve that. And like you, I felt that was like catching it, but all the time it was not there. And I also felt a little bit guilty because I was coaching as well. And I felt that everybody else has it and I don't. So it was more like an imposter syndrome. You know, I'm teaching people how to achieve balance, but I don't know how to do it in my own life. You know what I mean? I'm supposed to be modeling that and walk my talk. So there's a lot.
You know what it felt like?
What?
Yeah. You know what it felt like, Zoran? I want to give you a metaphor. You know that the horse where you have a stick to it and the carrot and you keep just going at it and you keep going at it and you just reach to it?
Yeah.
And I felt like I'm not doing a good job. I need to do more. And then, as you said, I was coaching my clients and I say, I might learn a few things from them. Maybe they're doing something better than I am. What are they? Can I get more creative ways? And I used to tell them that, you know, and it was funny. We used to joke about it. But then I said, what if it just doesn't exist?
Exactly.
What if it just never is there? And it got harder with, like you said in the beginning, with the digitalization and you know, with after, especially after COVID, especially. I did online work before COVID. So I was really, I didn't have any issues. I was doing coaching, mentoring, and training online even before COVID because I chose not to go back to corporate. after I got my master's degree, I chose to start my own company and chose my family, chose to be home, yet still work and still achieve and still contribute to the world. And so when I did that, I had meetings because 8 o'clock in the evening, 9 o'clock, because it was, US time in Canada, Australia. And so I had a coaching session, and it was with my American mentor. He was from the US. And I said, I'm laughing because I'm talking about balance. And here I am, 9 p.m., close to like heading to, I'm like I'm so sleepy, yet I'm having a coaching session. How am I authentic right now? I said, well, again, you are at choice. You are at choice, and you can make a deal with yourself. Are you going to reward yourself? What are you going to be here and tomorrow sleep in? What are you going to say yes to now and say no to tomorrow? And so I started like making deals with myself, and I integrated my life and work, because really there is no split. I couldn't split it. There is no way.
And I love how you're describing your process as well, and how you're being coached. This is also, awakening for a lot of people who are listening to this podcast, because a lot of people are in personal development movement. They get coaching. They love learning. They love developing. So that this moment when you are choosing and saying yes to something and saying no to something else, how easy or difficult is this for you, and how easy or difficult this is for the clients to say yes or to say no, to make sure that they choose, basically?
It needs to be, what I was coached on is to figure out my why. Why do I want to do this? Figuring out my why and strengthening my relationship with my inner leader voice, and stop being a victim to my choices, like to myself. When I say, okay, I'll do this, but I really don't, who's paying the price? Who's there's a gift and a cost to any decision we make. The gift is this, but the cost is this. I cannot complain about the cost, or I cannot be honoring the gift or receiving the gift and not be willing to pay the cost of it. So it's kind of like maturity. I matured. I admit that I was immature back then when I had this, I want it all, and I don't want to break down, and I don't want to do burnout, I want to travel. At the same time, I want to rest. At the same time, I want to do this. And he was looking at me like, he's this 70-year-old, mentor and coach. He's looking at me, and what else, sweetheart? And I used to say, are you making fun of me? He says, no, I'm listening. I just need you to make sense of that. And open your calendar and schedule it. And if you can do it, good on you. But if you're setting up yourself for disappointment, then you need to also realize that as well.
Exactly. And
so it's just realization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been coached in the same way. It's that the realization of the choice when you put something in your calendar and solidify yourself, and not making promises to yourself that you cannot keep. I think that's also challenging on the soul, especially with people wanting to achieve and people wanting to have wonderful life and wanting to be available for their families. And if you make that choice, but you're not able to do it, then it gets detrimental for you. So you're saying that choice, yes or no, we need to have to figure out what is our why. Why are we doing certain things in our life? And understand that with every choice, we have the good and bad things, the benefits that we can receive, but also challenges that we cannot complain about. Correct?
Yes, and figuring out the why really is about sitting with myself, connecting with my inner leader voice, having the relationship of being in tune of what is it in the now, and being forward looking. If I do this now continuously, what will I be reaching then? So it's basically just kind of like designing what I really want and being wise and careful, and being aware, bringing it up to my awareness that if I didn't schedule my break times, or I started doing power naps from how fast-paced my workday is, if I did not do my power naps in a month's time, how will my health be?
Exactly.
How will my productivity be? And guess what? At times when I couldn't stick to it, or when I didn't block it, when I didn't, block it in my Calendly, this is the time where I need to zone out, tune out, and I can feel it in my body, and I would say, I'm sorry, but you need to take care of yourself better. This is not a joke, not an excuse. So I have this kind of parenting relationship with myself, disciplined parenting relationship, harsh one, a compassionate, disciplinary one. Yeah. And I feel bad. I'm sorry you feel bad, but hey, you didn't help.
Yeah. I think that the discipline is that gives us the container, the sense of freedom. Whenever we can discipline ourselves, we become more free in whatever we do. You also mentioned this inner self leadership voice. Tell me more about that voice, and how did you get in relationship to this, and how can we, or people who are listening, start that dialogue? Where, how you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tool. It's a visualization that I was introduced to with Coach Training Institute, where I did my coaching studies. And it's meeting with my inner leader voice in a new and conscious way, and making it a point to visiting it or sitting with that voice regularly. And kind of like, the more I sit with it, the more I talk to it, I develop this, relationship, a friendly relationship, like my supporter, my unconditional lover, my wisdom. And the more I sit with it and journal or ask questions, ask powerful questions. What do I want? How can I get it? Who can I get support from? Who do I need to connect with? Just asking these questions in that moment. What are we dreaming of? What are we talking about? What's the worst case scenario? It's kind of like, and I get answers, and I wait and I listen and I say thank you. And people might seem, it's like, you're talking to yourself. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I am talking to myself.
I think it's a wonderful practice. This is the reason why I'm really super grateful that you share this visualization practice and connecting to your inner voice, because I also feel that communication, it's the most precious and most important one that we have. Sometimes people think that being able to talk to other people, being able to communicate to your loved ones, to supporters, to coaches, to mentor, of course it's good. But I feel in my own life, when we open that inner dialogue with this inner authority that you call your leadership voice, wow, what can we learn, right?
Yeah. And I the before version of me, used to rely so much on my father, on my uncle, on my friends, and I would get so confused because there's so many voices. And one would say this, and I learned to put them in the consultants box. They're consultants, but the end says here. Yeah. And that's when I learned about my inner leader voice, when I was in my late 30s. But before that, I was chaotic. I didn't have that center, that solidity, that self-confidence. I appeared confident, but inwards, I need to ask my dad and see what he thinks. I will still ask him, but then I will end by, what do I say and what do I want? And so that really helped from having this trust relationship with my inner leader voice.
Yeah. And I think that for my point of view, the more we have this conversation, the dialogue, the more we trust, and the more the voice trusts us to follow through and listen, because it's like with any relationship, it's two-way street. Even if that voice is super unconditional, I find it very loving and very wise and very caring. It still needs us to listen. I sometimes, when I don't listen to my inner voice, I pay price. Usually what happens.
Yeah.
It never says, I told you so. It's not like a relationship, I told you so. But, I see, with my own eyes that
live the consequence.
Live the consequence. Exactly. Live the consequence. And that consequence can be that, fatigue, when I push myself too much, or when I overwork, or, as you said, you don't have enough time to have power nap, or to breathe, or to relax, or to eat with the family, or to do things that you need to do to keep yourself in balance, right? So,
yeah.
Is it with you that when we listen in your own life, and then of course, let's look into our clients and listeners' life, when we listen to this inner voice, that we get closer to living a balanced life?
Definitely, because we are living at choice, with choice, choosing whatever we want in that moment. There are no regrets. There's no, oh, I wish I did that over this. There's no guilt. That feeling of guilt that maybe mothers have, speaking of mothers around, you know, it's always, oh, I wish I'd done that, or I should have done this, and I want more for my kids, and I feel selfish for going out with my friends, or I feel, why am I traveling, not taking my children with me, or not visiting my mom more often, or it's always that war inside. But now it's like, no, I will choose, and when I am, there is no guilt. There's just living with no regrets and being assertive, which is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There's no room for that yo-yoing inside, which really gets me to unfocused. And when I'm unfocused, I'm not driven. When I'm undriven, I don't feel alive. When I'm not feeling alive, then it's all, then I'm sleepy. Then I'm performing. Then I'm, quality is not well. And it's just not worth it.
Exactly. And I love that when you talked about assertiveness, when you're in alignment with that inner voice, that you become really assertive. And I know this feeling so well, but for myself and for people that I coach, when we get wobbly and we go one and we get really into the space of having too many choices, too many decisions, not being certain, not being sure, doubting, questioning, that really gets us into that space of procrastination, and we lose a lot of energy. So what you're saying with that assertiveness comes that you are really preserving your energy, and then you can give more, you can have bigger impact, you can have more focus in your life, in your business on a daily basis. Yeah.
You get more creative, asking more powerful questions. How can I make this simpler? How can I make this easier? How can I make this better? Because when you're aligned, you're glowing and you're flowing. It's with flow. Flow happens.
Mm-hmm.
And when flow happens, you get somehow you have the space to dream and envision things. Oh, what if? And challenge yourself suddenly. If I got here, what if I can get there? What do I have to do to get there? And it's like, that's where self-motivation comes as well. Like, imagine if I did it up to here, like, for instance, if I'll do my certifications with the coaching, I never thought that I wanted to do like the ACC, PCC, MCC, all that. I never thought. And when when I needed to do my ACC, I'm already at PCC without even feeling it. I didn't even count the hours.
Yeah.
And then my mentor was saying, do you know that you have over 500 hours, but you need to go and do the ACC exam in order for you to do the PCC? Out of love and flow, I wasn't calculating or monitoring what am I doing. Mm-hmm. And so when I did my PCC, I'm like, I wonder, how can I get my M6? What would I do? But there, the question was, what can I do differently and ease the process? Because I'm tired here. I'm tired. I need to slow it down.
Right.
And so what can I do different and what can I do better and reach there?
Wonderful. Yeah. So when you are, your business clients come into conversation with you, either when you're leading the workshops or you are doing coaching or team coaching or group coaching, whenever different learning initiatives, and you can see that people are out of balance, or they're asking you for support and rebalancing their life, especially nowadays. What is the approach that you take, and how do you communicate clearly to the business audience? What do you feel it's necessary at this moment in time, especially right now when you are in the space of, you moved from how it was before for you to how it is right now for you, knowing what you're knowing? What would you say?
Yeah. The first thing that I would do and say to them is, go home, connect with your inner leader voice. Mm-hmm. From that space, ask one simple question. What do you want? Mm-hmm. What do you want? And it's mostly that they say that what they don't want. Mm. And then we filter. I would say, tell me what you don't want. So we could now get it out of the way, put down that list, and then make the list of what do you want. And then they would, from that inner leader voice, answer, how can we get there, and what do we say yes to and what do we say no to. It's a simple practice. And then we figure out the why for each one, because the why determines whether they're going to actually implement it, or is it just talk and it was a venting section in the session. If the why is heavy and worthy and the cost of not implementing it is high, then that person is definitely going to, take it seriously and implement and not even blink to doubt not implementing, which that was the case for my clients. My clients have always been about productivity. They're driven, they're passionate, because you know how it works. We attract people like us, and they would be like overwhelmed, overworked, and they would want to know how can they feel in self-satisfied. How can they get self-satisfaction while living life?
And it's a beautiful thing when we reach that level of satisfaction, self-satisfaction, because that leads us to experiencing life in all dimensions. And I think that, ultimately, when we choose life balance, when we choose what do we say yes to, what do we say no to, our end goal is to feel that satisfaction, to feel that we are accomplished, that we feel that we done it in an intelligent way, not burning ourselves throughout. For me nowadays, a lot of people are struggling. I can see this in leadership development programs and in coaching programs that I lead. A lot of the people who are listening to this podcast as well, the demands are really high, and they have this methodology that they've been convinced that they're seeking for the work-life balance. And you said it doesn't exist. So when they keep on seeking, then they keep on putting themselves in the situation that I've been before, that you and I discussed, when I'm feeling that I'm not able to reach to that carrot or, grab that in my life, and I feel something is wrong because everybody else looks balanced, so they're managing themselves in the best possible way, but we don't know what's going on inside. We only know the projection they're sharing with us. So I'm really passionate about, especially the younger leaders, especially the leaders who grew up in the digital way, leaders who are now facing the AI as well, and the demand of the speed, because it's speeding up, it's more and more and more. For them to get into that point that you're saying that they understand their choice, they can choose this, but they also understand why they're choosing that. And I think that's a beautiful tool that you're introducing to help people have a moment when they can really think through and feel through their choices instead of just running, right, and being carried by inertia of their life.
I want to add John Wooden's definition to success, because we all want to succeed. Young leaders, passionate leaders, our generation, everyone, we all just want, to feel successful and succeed in life. And when I came across John Wooden's definition, because my second son is a basketball player, and I was just, researching who are the most famous basketball coaches out there to just make conversation with him, right?
Yeah.
And so I learned that there was this John Wooden coach of UCLA. I think he's one of the most famous coaches. And I pulled up the quote and the definition. I want to read it to you. And it says, success, John Wooden defines success as the peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming.
Wow. Wow, beautiful. Beautiful. And knowing that your best version, what you're capable of becoming. Wow. Yeah.
Not copying anyone else. It's not wanting to be someone else. It's knowing that you are, from your inner leader voice, doing the best that you are capable of doing and taking on, the responsibility to be self-satisfied. So that moved me. And I feel like I want to, it gave me a lot of reassurance. I mean, I felt like a mountain fell off my shoulders when I read this definition. Yeah. I said,
Exactly.
And I lived life ever since honoring and following this definition.
So I'm so happy you shared this with us today. For the audience, like, bookmark it, listen to it again, because it's one of these rare quotes that really redefines success in the most beautiful way, and that elevates the pressures that we put on ourselves. I was talking to my son, also he's an athlete as well, He's into calisthenics, which is the new sports. And he asked me the other day, is it important for me to compare with others, or shall I follow my own journey? Because everybody, especially in his age, is comparing, with each other. Who is more successful, who has more money, who is more developed, who is more this or more of that. With the social media, of course, we know how social media impacts the egos. Look at me, look at me, look at my life, look at my life. And then we compare with somebody else's life and we feel disheartened because our life, our business, our money, our success, our team, our organization is not as good as somebody else. So, that's an interesting point. But the quote you just shared, it's the one that I'm going to share with my son, because there is no need to compare, right? You need to follow your own journey, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's understanding that even if the other player that is near you or your teammate has a better capacity or is a better athlete, does not mean that you do too. And it's not bad that you don't. And it's okay if you understand and is content with your own capacity, your own skills. Just do the best that you are capable of becoming.
Exactly.
That's it. And that is enough.
Yeah. And funnily enough, that really ties up into our conversation with balance, because I think when we are choosing to say yes to what is our why, and when we're choosing, our life, we do need to choose wisely, because we need to choose within our potential, within our capacity. Sometimes when people are choosing unwisely, they want to be somebody they're not meant to be, not supposed to be. They live life. There is not their life to live. It's somebody else's life to live. But we think, oh, this is my life because somebody else is so happy living it. So what you're also inviting people to do wisely in this podcast is to consider that as well, right? How do you choose your life?
Definitely. And remember what my mentor was saying, stop setting yourself up for disappointment. And that's what we usually do without us even knowing and being conscious about it. We shoot ourselves in the foot and then we think that we want to run and walk. Well, then, be realistic, choose wisely, be compassionate with oneself, be realistic, and to manage your energy and your time, and it's really, and schedule rest time, schedule, travel time or downtime.
Yeah.
As much as you schedule a meeting, schedule downtime.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that I'm gonna trick myself into doing that.
Yeah, me too. Especially as you said, after COVID, when the Zoom calls became really popular and people naturally before the organization had time to walk from the room to the room and, use the physical spaces. And then people ended up being in a Zoom universe. And then they were just doing Zooms back to back. Nobody scheduled anything. They were really, really struggling. So I think that the good hack there, your choice is to schedule that. You have to schedule the space for you to reset, rejuvenate, and to have time to, process as well. Because, overstimulation with the information that comes and comes and comes wear us down. So a lot to be done.
Especially for coaches. Yes, especially for coaches. I just want to end with this message, especially for coaches and leaders that are always listening to people. We need to honestly demand and rejuvenation time is part of the work, is part of my work, is to either swim or meditate or journal. It's no joke, it's mandatory, because when I'm hearing someone's life journey and, their struggles and their, it's like I'm taking on their life, listening in, connecting our hearts together. And it does take a toll. It does take a toll. And it's my job to re-energize, rewire. Be there for the next one.
I agree completely. That extreme self-care, you know what I mean? I keep on using this language, extreme self-care, for myself, because when you're leading somebody, when you're leading the team, leading organization, coaching, mentoring, you do take other people's energy. You do take other people's thoughts, other people's feelings, other people's behaviors. You take it in because it's part of the job. So if you don't have that enough time to take care of ourselves, then we know they're going to be able to support them any longer. Then it becomes detrimental to our own health. So as we're coming close to this recording, so how would you love to leave audience with? What do you think we should consider? I mean, we dropped quite significant concepts in here. We told people that, that this doesn't exist, but this exists. We broke down the myth that I think that people are struggling with. And I'm really happy that we did that, because I think this is a myth, and I think that we need to live our life completely differently. And I think that the challenges will come even more intense as we move with the digitalization of everything. I think that we're going to see more. I remember at my beginning of my career when I used to receive a fax and I waited for a day or letter or time to think how I'm going to respond. I had time to ponder. I have time to strategize. I have time to really form my response. Nowadays, everything is instantaneous, right? You need now. We need it immediately. So, it's challenging. So anything that you would love to say to the audience, what do you feel from your heart and from your journey into this? It's important.
I want to pick up on the word that you mentioned, extreme self-care, plugging in, scheduling rituals, whether it is connecting and sitting to listening to what is the now, what is going on now inside of you. What do you need to move forward? How? And applying, like really listening to what you need and care for yourself. That will only give you the fuel to continue to do and sustain what you do. I think that there's no other way. And I learned it the hard way. And I urge and I long for people to not take this lightly, extreme self-care, especially now, to live a fulfilled, loving, caring life, and to achieve whatever you wish for. And that's the juice, that's the best part, to achieve whatever you wish to feel. So whether it's personal, whether it's professional, anything.
Exactly. Yes, thank you so much. It was a wonderful conversation. I love how we managed to chat and really invite people to consider, invite people to reframe certain things about their life and how we conceptualize approach to balance and well-being and self-care. I think that, it's a good invitation for everybody to consider that. If you are working in the organization, if you're a team leader, manager, HR professional, look into this concept that we have introduced today. Also, what we mentioned when it comes to the inner voice, inner authority, listening to that, I think this is more and more important, that inner dialogue that we have with each other, with ourselves. And of course, making sure that you're using different hacks to make choices and to learn how to say yes or no. For me, it was very difficult to learn that, because I needed to work with my boundaries as well, because I always wanted to be helpful. I always wanted to be supportive, to be loving. I was conditioned in that way. So when I was coached with my choices, I needed to learn how to set the boundaries. It was tough at the beginning, but then it worked towards the end. And now it really serves me, and people know, right? Isn't it? That boundaries are super important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So consider that. This can be a field we can open and talk for hours, but we just wanted to give you the essence today. So thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
You're really welcome
for your energy.
My pleasure.
And for your presence. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to listening to this podcast week after week, for referring us. As I said, wonderful news that we're growing on Spotify. There's a lot more listening on Spotify. Last podcast was more than 3,000 listens. Also on Facebook, we are reaching a critical mass. So I'm really grateful to our audience, business or personal audience, who is referring and sharing this podcast with their teams, colleagues, and families and loved ones. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you so much.